What you're about to experience is multiple Dans from multiple dimensions.
Good day and welcome to Coffee with Chris. You may recognize my guest from one of his performances around the city as a stand-up comedian, or from his appearance on the Baroness Vaughn sketch show, Rookie Blue, The Amazing Gail Pyle, Spinning Out, Being Andy Serkis, Kids in the Hall, Odd Squad, Private Eyes, and even Video on Trial. One of the founders of the Sketchersons, an actor, producer, writer, and comedian. Please welcome Dan Galea. Dan, thank you so much for being here and welcome.
Hello, thanks for having me.
It's a treat for sure, and I have a lot of questions about you being a soup can and being an offended clown.
Good.
But you have a new album that released. It's a musical comedy style called Interdimensional. It's available on all streaming platforms. I have a question about one of my favorite tracks. This song has no lyrics or no lyrics. It's like a minute long. It's really funny and catchy. Technically, yes, there's lyrics, but it actually is like, this is where the lyrics go. Walk me through Interdimensional and this song.
Yeah, so like Interdimensional is an album where it's supposed to be me from a bunch of different dimensions who have made songs and contributed to the album. So each song's a different genre. That's kind of like I don't know what genre that one falls into. It almost sounds like a Shaggy song or something, but it's a song about how I couldn't think of any lyrics for that song, and I just decided to make those the lyrics. I think the song that's right after it is written by an AI. So I was very figuring out lyrics is not it's not the easiest thing, but yeah, the album itself is like it's like kind of songs that have been selected from my personal kind of diary. I've used to like write a lot of songs when I was feeling all sorts of ways, and these are kind of the funnier ones that I cherry picked and put on an album. I got a bunch of my famous and fun and talented friends to be on the album and help me make it better.
So how did this album come about? You just picked up and said, hey, let's go and let's record it today. Like, how long have you been working on this project?
Well, if I still have like 100 songs on my computer that no one's ever heard, and up until this point, people would come over and I would torture them by making them listen to my songs on my computer while they sat here awkwardly wondering why I'm doing this. The album came to be just because Scott Thompson saw me do a show. We're good friends, and he just basically asked if I wanted money to make an album because he knew that I didn't have any to do that. And I said, no, I'm not sure. And then he said, come on, just take it. I said, well, you did the thing that I was hoping you'd do. You asked twice. So I said yes the second time, and here we are.
So you didn't follow the
Really
comedian. You didn't follow the comedian rule of three of waiting for the third time. You went on number two.
No, I didn't want to take the risk. Didn't want to take the risk that it would disappear.
So you would actually, you name drop Scott Thompson there for those who don't know. How did you guys get involved? How did you guys meet up?
Well, actually, back in the day when I was doing the Sketchersons, Scott was nice enough to host. And to be honest with you, that's a huge thing. Like Scott, Colin Mockery, and Sean Collin, I'll name drop even more. But they've always been really kind to me and my friends in the comedy community, and like they're doing live shows with lots of people that are like starting out and stuff like that. And so they're really great people to look up to, and they've been really nice. And Scott and me just kind of became quick friends because after the Sketcherson show, I got a call at like 7 in the morning, and then it was this guy who seemed like he was a little upset about something, and he was just kind of ranting and raving about just kind of like the industry and stuff like that. And I had no idea who it was. And then I was just like, sorry, I don't mean to be weird, but like, who is this? And the person said, Scott. And I was like, Scott, who? And he's like, Scott Thompson. And I was like, oh, cool. Scott Thompson's calling me to like chat. Like that's kind of where it started. And then after that, he did a bunch of my shows, and we started hanging out, and yeah, just been a really great friend ever since.
Now you actually got to play, I would say it was Bingo the Clown on the Kids in the Hall that came to Prime, and it was such a fun episode where you actually got to be an offended clown.
Yeah,
Could you walk me through a little bit about how you were able to do this? Typically, people see a clown and they're not thinking that they have, I'll say, feelings and emotions, and certainly hard to offend.
well, Bingo is a legacy character in Kids in the Hall. So there was someone else that played him in the original series, and his character always gets Scott Thompson's character Danny Husk in trouble. That's like his main thing. Scott's character is always blaming Bingo the clown for everything, and Bingo's always kind of like one up on him, kind of like like a Wile E. Coyote type Roadrunner thing. And so I was lucky enough to get this part. And yeah, it was just kind of hilarious. I got to shoot Scott in the face with a seltzer bottle for like 10 minutes, and that's anytime you can shoot a seltzer bottle and you can squirt someone in the face for that long, it's a good time. It's a very good time.
Now, speaking of characters and drawing on it, as I mentioned to you, you got to play Andy Serkis here, which I got to tell you, man, watching you be a soup can for it was really cool to see, and watching that those BTSs and watching the footage where you being Andy stayed in character to the point where people just started to approach you as the soup can on set. Walk me through this character development. What it's such an amazing role. Of those who haven't seen it, make sure to check it out. It's just absolutely hilarious the way that you've done it. How'd you do this? How did you come up with this?
I have it's one of the almost all my ideas have been around for a while, and it's always a money thing. So basically, I've had this idea for a really long time. I thought, what if Andy Serkis was a CGI character because he's played so many CGI characters? And yeah, it was just kind of we got I got a run of shows at the Rec Room, which is like the Cineplex kind of like arcade place downtown, and they were giving me some pretty good money to do those shows. And so every show I would do a video, and that's the one that we made one week, and that won a Canadian Comedy Award. And yeah, that was like one of my favorite things I've done in a really long time up until this album. So it's kind of like we're jumping from like the thing I loved the most to the thing I love the most. But it's on my website, it's on YouTube. It's called Being Andy Serkis. And yeah, it's just kind of imagining Andy Serkis was a CGI character himself, and that I was the person in the green screen suit playing him the whole time. So pretty
Listen,
fun times.
congratulations. It was hilarious. And the thing that I like about that sketch with Dan is that you didn't really lay it up to be punchline here or follow storyline insert. It was really just kind of there. And especially at the
The
end
best
when
ideas are. I was just talking to my friend about this last night. Like, my favorite ideas are the ones that are already funny and you can be like a serious actor within them. Because when things are too hammy, it just like you're like begging for laughs, And I like that stuff too. Don't get me wrong. Like, I'm a huge Naked Gun and all those type of things. But like even those movies, like if you watch the old Naked Gun movies or like Top Secret or Airplane, like one of the things that makes them good is like the idea is so solid and the actors are actually really acting. Like they're good actors. Like Leslie Nielsen's a good actor. You know what I mean? And so that's my favorite thing is like when you can be a really dramatic actor, but the idea is funny around it. So it's like just making everything better.
it's fabulous. And again, I encourage everyone to go take a look at that for sure. When we look at your comedy style, how would you describe your comedy style for the people out there who haven't seen your shows, which I highly recommend?
I think it's a bit of a smorgasbord, to be honest with you. It's been my Achilles heel and my superpower in a weird way because, if you're asking me in hindsight what you should do in this industry, it's probably focus on something and get really good at it. So, like, if you want to be a stand up, you should be a stand up and just like put all your effort into that. However, that's hindsight's 2020, and I kind of ended up just trying everything. So like I started with the sketch troupe, the Sketchersons, and then Primo and the Boom. And then I went to LA. I took UCB improv classes, and I did a bunch of improv at Comedy Bar and a bunch of different places. And then I started doing stand up, and I started producing commercials, and I started producing comedy videos and music. So, it's weird because like I don't know that anyone really knows how to place me, which is like been a bit of a problem in my career if I'm being 100% honest, because people are always like, "Well, what do we do with you? Are you a producer? Are you an actor, a comedian, a DJ?" So it's like in one regard, I can be very useful, but in another regard, it's hard to think of me as just one thing. So, uh, yeah, it's fun, but I think I've kind of created a monster in terms of like, I have to do this my own self now because nobody understands what I'm doing. Uh, it's always different, and I just got to kind of be me, and that's where I've kind of landed. Just be fun, and they try to be funny, and don't worry about the industry and all that stuff anymore, because that's what made me not like it. Is worrying about the industry and worrying about success and all that stuff really gets you down. So now I'm back to just like, let's be funny and have fun, and hopefully all that other stuff comes with it.
It's neat that you're kind of talking about this mold where the industry says you have to fit this mold or look this way or do these things or pick one or the other. And there's a lot of great people out there, and yourself included, where they've just said, "No, I don't fit this mold. I got to make my own and smash it to pieces." But it really leads me to my next question for you: is that if you had to pick one of those avenues, and you are incredibly talented in a lot of different avenues, but if you had to hang your hat on one of them, where do you think your creative outlet would lie?
Um, I think ultimately I want to perform like on TV. I think that like I want to be a comedic actor, writer, creator. You know what I mean? Like that would be great. I really like making things that are unique and trying to like surprise people. So I think that would be my main thing, is just kind of somewhere in the realm of like creation, TV creation, whether I'm starring in it or I just wrote it and produced it or whatever. But something in that realm would be like a dream, because it's just, it's funny because like you want to not care about money, but the money is there, and it's like it makes it a lot easier. And if you can get that money and you can make something and people trust you, then that's where like some magic might be able to happen. And I'm still waiting for my opportunity to get to do something like that. And I've written a lot of pitches and TV show pilots and stuff like that. And yeah, just plugging away, and hopefully one of them hits eventually.
So, with your experience, I mean, when you talk about all these pitches and writing all these different pilots, what do you think it is that has to be included in a pilot or a pitch to make someone say, this works and this doesn't? I know it's all opinion based, but would you say,
Yeah.
this is the next cookie cutter Hallmark movie and that's why they get picked up? What do you think that real challenge is, not just for yourself, but for everybody who's trying to do what you're doing?
It's hard to say because basically like there's I don't believe in this. I don't believe that anything matters. I know that sounds weird, but like, I think you could have a show about a guy who's a roommate with a toilet, and could be the best show in the world. Like it
If
just
you're
doesn't
writing
matter.
it for
Like,
sure.
yeah, like if the writing is good and the acting is good, and they found a way to do it, then it's going to be amazing. But it's like people really like try to stifle that first phase of like, oh, you have a pitch. Not sure if this is going to work. Well, it's like you really don't know if it's going to work until it's written and done. So it's like, uh, it's hard to say what. I don't really think there's a rhyme or reason for why people pick things and why things get picked up. I think it's about, in a room, someone says, I like it, and then someone else says, I like it, and then it gets picked. And in another room, someone says, I don't know, something about it I don't like. And it's just an opinion. Like it's just an opinion, because even when you look at the shows that make it, a lot of them aren't good. You know what I mean? So it's like they're not being chosen properly all the time, or we'd love all the shows and no shows would ever get canceled. And most shows get canceled. So like it's a really hard industry and nobody ever said it was easy and nobody deserves or is owed anything.
Yeah.
Although sometimes it feels like you are because you've been doing it for 20 years and it would be nice. You have to remember that like you didn't get into a business with a clear path. You got into a business with no path and you have to make your own path and figure it out. And that's kind of something that's leveled me out and kept me sane is just kind of like, there's no expectations. There really isn't. There's hope and there's a lot of other things, but I would be a fool if I expected anything, I think, because it's a hard business and you just got to keep doing it and doing it because you like it.
It's neat. There's a lot of people who say that, you're not in this business to be that 1%. You're in the business because you love it and you're passionate about it and you want to make someone laugh or smile or, just bring hope or a different opinion to them and go through it. When you look
It's
at all,
hard because like, oh, sorry, go ahead.
no, no, please, please.
No, I was just gonna say, like, one of the things I started doing when I go into these pitch meetings and stuff is like thinking of myself as a stock. Because, so basically, you don't realize it until you really think about it. But like when you're pitching a show, you're asking a company, well, usually a phone company, uh, to give you a lot of money, like millions of dollars, right? And their main thing is they want to make money. So if you're not a stable stock, and by that I mean you've never done anything before, they've never seen you around, they don't know you, you're pitching and you're very volatile as a stock, right? So you're pitching this and you have to figure out a way to make them feel like you're a good business
Right.
decision. And that's something that comedians don't think about because we're comedians and we don't want to be in business. We want to be in comedy, even though comedy isn't a business, it's show business. So, you know, it's a weird thing, but like having someone like Scott Thompson or like someone else that like can steady the ship a little bit for you, or even like attaching a showrunner or like attaching a production company, because that's another business that says, hey, we believe in you, and then you go with them, and then the network's like, hey, you have another company that believes in you, you've done a little bit of our legwork and you're a bit more of a stable stock, you know what I mean? So it's a learning process, but that's how I feel about it now. It's just kind of like you got to make yourself as much of a sure bet as you can before you get something.
So what was it like when you first started? A lot of people are afraid to take that plunge. You've been doing it for a while. You're fabulous at what you do. Again, I encourage everyone to check out your stand-up comedy and your album, Inner Dan Mentional. What was that first moment like for you? Do you remember getting on stage for the first time and, trying to figure that out? Can you walk us through a bit of that?
Yeah, well, I went to the Humber School of Comedy from high school. I took a year off and then I went to Humber, and it was the first year the Humber School of Comedy existed. And I did the 2-year program. And they didn't really know what they were doing yet. They were figuring, all the teachers were like literally writing the course as we were there. Um, but the thing about it is like, you go to these schools and people are always like, can they really teach you how to be funny? And it's like, that's not what the school's for. It's not to teach you how to be funny. It's to teach a funny person just the basics of how to get started. So, like I had great teachers like Gary Pearson and Nick John teaching me how to write sketch. And I had like a Larry Horowitz, who's like an old Yuck Yucks comic. And he was teaching us how to do stand up. And you really meet a lot of the people you're going to end up working with for most of your career in these situations, which I think is really the benefit of taking a class. It's like, take what you want from that class. Don't become a robot. Just take what you want, take what you like, and make friends. The friends are the biggest part of the class because you're going to meet people that are like-minded, and it's a lot easier to do this with other people, which is why sketch troops are kind of fun. Yeah,
No, you're absolutely right. It's easier when it's never you need help, you need another you, or you need somebody with the same motivation.
exactly.
When
Well, it's
you
just more fun to go to like open mics and stuff with someone, or like, even if you meet someone, you're like, oh, we like find the same things funny, and then you start writing little scenes together and doing those shows. It's like, man, it's really fun. It's really fun to have that kind of a connection with people, you know.
It's if I remember correctly, it's kind of where the Batman reading his diary or poetry slam came from as well. Um, which is, which is a favorite of mine. If you haven't ever seen Batman going to a poetry slam, definitely you want to check that out on YouTube there.
It's very funny.
That was a really good sketch. But when you look at your style of comedy and your style, has there been any influences that you draw to? Is there someone that says, hey, I really enjoy this person's style more than the other, and you try to emulate that for the first little bit? Who are your influences?
I think, yeah, I think you pick up little things from everyone. Like, I don't think you're just like one person. I think that you're a combination of all your influences. And I like, grew up on the Adam Sandler album, which was like a huge influence on my album that I just put out. Because I remember as a kid, my album's a little more G-rated, I guess, but that's just like how it came out. I didn't try to do that. It just is what happened. But I remember growing up with Adam Sandler's like, They're All Gonna Laugh at You, and just like playing that thing till I needed a new CD. Like I destroyed that album. And growing up, I liked Norm Macdonald and Stephen Wright and a lot of like Mitch Hedberg type people. Like, just I like the one-liners, and I like. It's hard for me not to go into like a Norm Macdonald impression sometimes when I'm doing jokes, because I like really have like his mentality in mind when I say a lot of things, and I'm always like, it's hard to not do that thing. You're like, yeah. So, but yeah, those are my biggest influences, as I would say. And then sketch influences like Mr. Show, Kids in the Hall, and Monty Python, and it goes on, but for sure. Yeah, Turd Ferguson, it's my name. But you know what? There's a quote that I will say on every single thing I do, because it's Norm Macdonald talking about Canadian entertainment, and it's so right on. And it's the quote is, he was on Mark Maron's show, and Mark Maron said, like, why are so many people from Canada funny? Like, there's so many funny Canadians. And Norm Macdonald's answer was, he goes, that's easy. In Canada, when you do comedy, I'm sorry, he goes, in the States, when you do comedy, you do a show and then somebody sees you and they like you. And then you get a job, either writing or acting on a show, or you get an opportunity. He's like, in Canada, you practice forever. It's just like, and it's just so true. Like, people come here, specifically Toronto, from different parts of the world, because it's a great place to hone your craft. There's so many shows. There's not a lot of opportunity. You can pitch to CBC or Bell. That's basically it. And then there's like a bunch of streaming people. But it's like, you're coming here to practice. You can do 8 shows a week, and then you can leave and go to New York or LA or wherever you're off to. But there are people that I've met, like Carol Zoccoli, for instance. She's a stand-up from Brazil, and she was on SNL Brazil. And she came to Toronto just because she knew she could practice. So she came here and just practiced like crazy, like, because English is her second language. She speaks perfect English, and it's mind blowing that she can do comedy in another language. But that's a whole other story. But she came here just to practice, and then when she figured out, she was like, there's not a lot of opportunity here, and also I feel like I've kind of honed something.
Mhm.
She moved to the States, but it would be nice if we could stay here. I would love it if comedians could find opportunity here and there was more to go around. But unfortunately, it's just it is what it is, and it's been getting better, but it's a very slow paced growth. So we famously don't really have a star system here, and the UK has one, the States has one, and we kind of just use theirs. So.
Yeah, we all move. That's the gig, right? Is couldn't work, kept practicing, and then we finally left.
Yeah. Well, I went to LA for 6 months on vacation, and I ended up selling a pilot and shooting it.
Wow.
And that was 6 months. I've been here 20 years, and I haven't been able to sell a pilot or anything like that. So the opportunity is definitely different.
Yeah, that's well, congratulations on the pilot for sure. And keep
It didn't
grinding.
go anywhere, but it's still a thing. It still happened, and I made it. I have a little. You can check it out on my website. It's there
Oh man.
forever.
Well, I like what you said. There's tons of opportunity to practice in Canada. You can do 8 shows a week. You can really hone in on your craft. And the larger opportunities tend to be elsewhere. Is a way to, I guess I'll say it.
Yeah, and there's some here. It's just it's definitely hard. It's definitely a really hard thing to break into.
It's that old adage: if it was easy, everyone would do it, right?
Yeah,
But
no one ever said that to me. No one ever said get into comedy. It's so easy.
that's good luck.
Yeah, yeah. Quit school and go to comedy. It's easy. That's what people say, right?
That and being drivers, yeah. Uh, you can navigate Toronto. I assure you, it's easy. Yeah. Um, so, Dan, what's something that people tend to misunderstand about you the most?
Probably mistaking my kindness for weakness, I would say. I think a lot of people they see you be nice and they don't understand what it is. I like to like work together. I'm like a person, I'm a connector. I like to like help people. I like to like if you tell me I'm trying to get a job welding and I'm talking to a welder, like you're going to be brought up and I'm going to see if there's a job for you. So it's like that's something I've always wanted to do. It's something that's really helped me as a producer because I know so many different people from different walks of life that I can utilize to be my, cameraman or whatever it is. And I think that like I think that people feel like comedy's a competition sometimes, and I don't think it is. And I actually think it's like a huge problem if you think that, because it's okay to be, you know, competitive. It's fine because you want to be as the best person you can be, and you want to be better than everyone. That's fine. But we're in such a like in a hard industry, and it's like if we all helped each other we'd all be doing a lot better because nobody really sticks their neck out for anyone that much, and it's like there's a lot of people worried about jobs here, and there's a lot of people worried that if they say something they might be shunned or whatever it is, whatever the thing in their head is. But the
Yeah.
truth is like you can say stuff, it's okay. You can like champion people, and you can like you can suggest people, and I want to work with the funniest people. I don't want to be afraid of them. You know what I mean? It's like if I can get a funny person on my show, I want them, and if I think they're funnier than me, I have something to learn. You know what I mean? And it's like they're only going to be bringing my show up here. They're not bringing me down. And if I'm being brought down, I deserve it because I'm not working hard enough, and I'm not, whatever it is. It's all kind of one of those things where, if you watch Seinfeld, some people like George, some people like Elaine, some people like Kramer, and some people like Jerry, I'm sure. But like, you know,
They must like Jerry. Yeah, yeah. A little bit of
someone must
people.
like Jerry, right? But yeah, so it's like it's all opinions and preferences, and you can be worried all you want that someone's going to steal the show or steal something, but it's like it's all up to people's minds and you can just have fun and work with people that you like.
Yeah. So another tough question for you. If there was what's something that we as a society need to start or stop doing as of tomorrow? If you could say, like, we really need more of this or less of that, what would Dan say?
I just think we need to mind our own business a little more. I mean, like, let people live their lives. There's so many people like that want to say something about something that has nothing to do with them, and there's no point. It's not like helping anyone. It's not doing anything for anyone, and I just feel like we live in a world where things are really cutthroat. I think that like we need to be able to be friends with people that have different thoughts than us. I think that we're very quick to judge these days. And I'll be honest, it's not always easy to be friends with people that you don't agree with. But the truth is you have two options. You can let them go and you can just cut them off forever and let them be like that forever. Or you can be their friends and sneak in some advice once in a while that might help them see a different way. But it's really about mental health. And I think that not everyone is ready or prepared or able to deal with that kind of thing. And especially now, like after COVID, it's like there's a lot of mental health problems happening. And you can't really judge people too harshly for how they're acting all the time because everyone is stressed out. Everyone is, in a different situation. Um, the other side of it is like there are people that never stop talking about these issues and they know you don't agree. And that's hard, right? Because if like you tell someone, for instance, like, I believe in COVID and I think it could have been really bad and I thought masks were a good idea. And they don't like that. And then they say they don't like that and they think COVID's a hoax and all that stuff. I mean, one time you figure that out, that conversation, you figure out, okay, we're different on this.
Yep.
And if you decide you want to have a constructive conversation about it together, that's something. But if that person constantly sees you and says, COVID's a hoax, COVID's a hoax, COVID's a hoax, knowing you don't think that, it's annoying. It's not about like judging or anything. It's just like have common courtesy and respect and just be like, hey, guess what? I know this person thinks this. I'm not gonna like hound them about it. You know what I mean? And
Yep.
I find that's the thing is like it's okay to have an opinion. It's okay for it to be different. I don't need to have your opinion, and you don't need to have mine, and we don't need to argue until one of us switches. You know what I mean? Like,
Absolutely.
and that's my biggest thing right now is just like, I don't know, it feels like half my friends have changed in some way, and it's just kind of like figuring out how to deal with that. I think a lot of people are in that same situation where, people that are really nice, like good people, have like, uh, these ideas that I don't agree with. Um, and you just kind of have to figure out, is it worth it to like stay in this relationship, because you don't want to have it bring you down. It's hard enough to stay up on your own.
That's such a good point. Yeah, that's why we need that network of people, and you need the like-minded individuals for sure. Then you can kind of lean on each other
Yeah,
for that support when it comes through. So, where can people learn more
absolutely.
about you, Dan?
I got my website, dangalea.ca. You can check my IMDb out if you want to see what I've done and check out my past shows. I also am on Instagram at DG Special, Twitter at The Real Dan Galea, TikTok at The Real Dan Galea. And if you ever want to check out mycomedytickets.com, that's where I usually sell tickets to my shows. I have one coming up at the Tulip Variety Store, which is a stand-up comedy show inside of a convenience store, a fully functioning convenience store, where you can buy chips and snacks and whatever you like during the show. And it's a great store. If you haven't been there, it's on Westmoreland in Toronto, and it's really great. It's like a super weird, kitschy convenience store with like thrift items, and it's really weird in there. I work there sometimes too,
Fair
just to
enough.
help out.
Absolutely, yeah. I have time for one last question for you, Dan, and it's what makes you smile?
What makes me smile, honestly, is watching people be nice to each other. I know I'm a cheesy guy, I guess, but I really love watching people care about each other, and it makes me smile. And I like it when people look out for each other, and uh, that's my thing. I just like when people are nice. I just want people to be nice. It's a underrated quality, and I love watching people be nice to each other.
That's amazing and well said. Thank you. I appreciate that. And everybody, that's our show. Again, thank you for coming on to Dan, your time with Coffee with Chris. Everyone, remember to smile to inspire and have a fantastic day. Thank you so much again for your time, Dan.